downfall. Linda was never the good witch. Gossip and spreading rumors will be your downfall. She threw her into the dead ditch. Jealousy makes you lose everything, that's the cost. How about you just stay in the land of the lost? Besties with the witch of the west. Hate on us, but you're still obsessed. Getting you to be the big bad villain, babe, go get a psychoanalysis. Because I know I'm one in a million, but it's fine, I'll be your protagonist. You're talking too much, we can all hear your whispers. Calling us wicked is a little insulting. You gave them to her, but you can keep the rest with first thoughts. Your word goes, girl, but that's just disgusting. You can call me the bad witch, but I'm not the snitch. So tell me which is which? Which is which? Which is which is which? Mirror on the wall, who's the saddest one of all? Glenda was never the good witch. Gossip and spreading rumors will be your downfall. She threw her into the dead ditch. Jealousy makes you lose everything, that's the cost. How about you just stay in the land of the lost? Besties with the witch of the west. Hate on us, but you're still obsessed. Hating me to be the big bad villain, babe, go get a psychoanalysis. Because I know I'm one in a million, but it's fine, I'll be your protagonist.
I'm going to reveal a mystery behind what happened in the shooting at the Christian school in Nashville. A stunning truth you're never going to hear in the news. This is Jonathan Cahn. I'm not in the studio right now. I had no time, but I wanted to do it right here. What happened in Nashville, that shooting at the Christian school, was horrifying. And though the target was Christian children and Christian adults, there wasn't one single article in the mainstream media speaking of anti-Christian hatred or violence. Why was that? Some of the media actually appear to be blaming Christians for the shooting, since Christians are not generally for transgenderism and the shooter was transgender. Many media outlets didn't even mention that. But months before this happened, a video game came out that was created by a transgender video game designer, encouraging virtual violence and killing against those who are not in favor of surgical altering. In the game, they are to be killed, including a virtual minister. And before the massacre happened, a transgender activist planned day of vengeance. A trans day of vengeance was planned. The Bible speaks of spirits. In Hebrew, they're called the Shedim. Translated into Greek, it became the word daimonia. We get the word demon from it, demonic. Shedim means the destroyer, those who bring death. When they possess a person, they seek to remove the individual from his or her nature and purpose, whether that means their humanity, their gender, their sexuality, their personhood. That's how they begin destroying him or her. The possessed person becomes a danger to others and to himself or herself, harming others, harming themselves. The Bible says that the Shedim, or the daimonia, the demonic spirits, were behind the gods of the ancient world. 2,000 years ago, the gods were cast out of Western civilization by the power of Jesus. But behind the gods are spirits, and Jesus gave a warning, which can be translated into modern terms to America and to the world as this: any culture, any nation, any civilization that's been delivered of these spirits or gods, if it should ever turn away from God, these spirits, these gods, these demonic entities will come back to repossess it, repossess the culture, repossess the people. America has cast out God. Now we are witnessing the taking over of our culture by these spirits. That's why what we're watching is so irrational. That's why it's so demonic. When I wrote The Return of the Gods, I wrote these words. I said, if the gods or spirits that were cast out with the coming of Christianity returned, would they not come back with a vengeance? And would not their vengeance be focused on those who cast them out? Well, who cast them out? Christians did. So these returning spirits, demonic spirits, will turn their vengeance, their fury against Christians. Now think of what happened in Nashville to those Christian children and adults. I wrote of the plans of demonic spirits to attack Christians in The Return of the Gods. It came out in September 2022. 7 months later, the attack took place in the Christian school in Nashville. Now, when I wrote the book, I revealed 3 central gods or spirits that are now taking possession of America and the West. I call them the Dark Trinity in The Return of the Gods. Spirits that lie behind everything. What's happening to your children? One of them was called the Enchantress. In the book, I reveal that ancient inscriptions concerning this goddess, it says that she turns a man into a woman and a woman into a man. This is the god or the spirit that alters gender, transitions man into woman, transitions woman into man. The inscription also reveals that she's the god of parades that celebrate the bending of gender. And she especially possessed a culture in one month. Which month? The month of June from ancient times. She was the goddess of pride, and she possessed June. She had a priesthood called the Asinu or the Kalu. They were men who dressed up and acted as women. Some of them were surgically transitioned with organs cut off. One of the ancient transcriptions I put in the book describes the transitioned men dancing in front of the goddess, carrying scalpels as if to celebrate their transition. The spirit is taking over our culture and our children as I speak. It's not about the people, it's about the spirit behind them. The spirits are as much against those whom they possess and use as the ones who oppose them. The word shedim means destroyer. These spirits bring destruction. They're always after the children from ancient times to now. Whether killing babies in the womb or outside of the womb, they target children, and they target Christians now. Christian children are all the more in their crosshairs of the goddess and of the spirits. The goddess took possession of her priesthood. So the men who appeared as women and the women who appeared as men were possessed by the goddess. But Jesus warned that when the spirits come back, they come back worse. So now that same spirit that bends gender is seeking to possess an entire generation of children, to confuse them, to start transitioning them, to surgically remove their organs. How could we do that to them? What could possess somebody to do that? A spirit could possess them. The trans woman shooter was one of the confused souls of this generation. Now, could there have been an actual demonic possession behind what happened at that Christian school? And could there have been an actual sign that what happened really was from the spiritual realm behind the news? In the gospel account of the demoniac or the demonically possessed man, it goes like this. It says, they came to the other side, the disciples, with Jesus, of the Sea of Galilee, into the region of the Gerasenes. When he got out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. He was living among the tombs, and nobody was able to bind him anymore, not even with a chain or with shackles. The chains have been torn apart by him, and the shackles were broken into pieces, and nobody was strong enough to subdue him. Constantly, night and day, he was screaming among the tombs and in the mountains, cutting himself with stones. He dwelt in the tombs. The tombs would have been caves in the rocks. They were hollows, hollowed out space. He dwelt in the hollow. In the Matthew's account, it says the demon-possessed man or men were so fierce that nobody could pass that way. He terrorized the people of the town. He presented a danger of physical harm, and he harmed himself by cutting his body. So the shooter at the Christian school sought to bring destruction to others and then to herself. She wrote a note saying, I plan to die this day. The demonic spirits bring destruction. The demoniac or the demon-possessed man dwelt in the caves, the tombs, the hollows. So the demon-possessed person dwelt in the hollows. The one who killed the Christians that day was named Audrey Hale. What does Hale mean? Her name means the one who dwells in the hollows. The killer's name, the Bible reveals the demon-possessed dwell in the hollows. The name of the killer actually means the one who dwells in the hollows. Could there be even more signs of a dark mystery taking place in the spiritual realm that you're never going to hear on the news? In the book of Revelation, it is revealed that the number of the beast, the Antichrist, is 666. I'm sure you've heard of it. You see it in movies like The Omen about demonically satanic possessed people. 666, the number 6 is linked to man. Man was created on the sixth day in the form of 3, 666, the number of God. So 6 appears as 3, it's man as God, the beast, the Antichrist. How many people died? How many people, Christians, were killed by this woman named Hale, the one who dwelt in the hollows? She killed 6 people. She killed 3 adults. How old were they? One was 60, the other 61, the other 60. 666. They were all just about 60. Did she know that? I'm sure she didn't, but the spirits do. 666, the mark of the beast, the number of Satan, as in one who is possessed by a demonic spirit. The killer had no idea, but the spirits that possessed have an idea. In the worship of Satan, signs and numbers are often inverted, as in turned upside down, as the enemy is an inverter. How many children were killed? That was the adults, 666. How many children were killed? 3. What were their ages? 9, 9, 9. What happens if you turn it upside down? 666. 999 is the inversion of 666. So 3 adults, 666. 3 children, the inverted 666. The shooter had no idea. The spirits did. The changes that are taking place in our nation and Western civilization and the world are not natural. They're not rational. They're part of a mystery in the realm of the spirit. They're not just possessing troubled individuals. They're possessing celebrities, pop stars, organizations, institutions, media, school systems, government, leaders, cultures, our culture. And for you who are a follower of God, you're a Christian, you're a true believer, be warned, they're after you. And even if you're not, if you're created in the image of God, they're after you. They are affecting everyone. Every one of you watching this right now, you're dealing with it in one form or another, whether you know it or you don't. They're after you. You're a target. That's why I wrote The Return of the Gods, to reveal and to arm those who would be armed for what's coming. There's only one power and force that's able to overcome these things. It's the power of God, the presence of Yeshua, Jesus, the Redeemer, and that's why you need him in your life. We war not against flesh and blood, it says, but against powers, principalities, rulers, spiritual forces in high places. God is greater. Make sure you're right with him. Make sure he's in your life. Make sure you received him for real. Make sure you're born again. You're saved. And if you don't want to miss the messages that are going to come,
why are you moving along? Moving along without me. Without me. Without me. You seem to be doing just fine without me. You're smiling all of the time without me. Your world keeps spinning round and round without you. I'm sad and I'm scared, that's why I frown. Tonight is so cloudy. I see the raindrops in the sky. I'm trying to say howdy, but I don't even really know why. I try to reminisce on all the good times that we shared, but then I start to miss when you actually cared, when you cared about me. About me. Without me. Without me. You seem to be doing just fine
This is Jonathan Cahn. We are in critical times. I've shared in the past that if we don't see revival in this period, the moral and spiritual and cultural fall of America will accelerate. We have not yet seen revival, and the collapse is accelerating. At the end of January, my wife and I welcomed into the world our new baby son. The same week that he was born, the New York legislature passed a law to legalize the killing of a baby in its mother's womb up until the time of birth. To kill a baby up to the time of birth. Can you imagine such a thing? How evil is that? That's basic morality 101. To kill a child in its mother's womb is evil. To kill a child in its mother's womb up to the time of its birth is beyond evil. Check out online pictures of babies who have been aborted at any stage. But at that stage, it's gruesome, and I know it's gruesome. But it's not the pictures that are gruesome, it's the act of murder that is gruesome. The same governor who said, in effect, that conservatives were not welcome in the state of New York, told the legislature he would not sign a bill unless they included this gruesome law. At his side when he said that was Hillary Clinton. Those of you who have read The Paradigm, you know the connection there. It's still in play. They passed the law, and as they legalized the killing of the unborn child up to the time of birth, they stood up, celebrated as they legalized murder, and a gruesome murder. Some believers say politics, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which party, they're both the same. It's all corrupt. Well, politics, it's not the answer. And no party is, and no leader is. And parties can change overnight, and there may be issues that we agree with one party and others we don't. But the idea that politics doesn't matter is false. The bill to kill unborn children up to birth was attempted to be passed for years. And the only reason it was not passed is because the Republicans were in majority in the legislature of New York. But they lost that majority, and that is why it is now legal to kill babies up to the time of birth. It does make a difference. Your vote does make a difference, even in state elections. Again, in future times, we don't know where the parties will be, but for now, it does make a difference. About 2 months before this took place, I shared a message called The Hosts of Baal, in which I spoke of the connection between New York, abortion, and that tower, or the towers, the World Trade Center. If you've read The Harbinger, you know that the World Trade Center is one of the 9 harbingers in the biblical pattern of judgment. A tower represents a nation, a civilization, its height, and also its pride. It is the embodiment of the nation. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center were built, of course, in New York. New York was the state that ushered in abortion on demand in America. The killing of children on demand was begun in New York. It began in New York in the year 1970. It was in that same year that the towers began to rise in New York, 1970. The legalization of abortion in America, this whole process was completed in 1973, when abortion on demand was legalized across the land. In 1973, the towers of the World Trade Center that were begun in 1970 were also completed. The hand that signed the document to begin the building of the towers was the same hand that signed the document that began the legalization of abortion in America. Those towers stood for the years that it was legal to kill babies in America up until they were destroyed. And they were destroyed and replaced with One World Trade Center. Those of you who know the Harbinger know how much that tower is linked to defiance. The defiance of a nation against God, it's against its foundation, in the foundation of the towers there was defiance. In its dedication was defiance. In its building was defiance. In what happened after the Harbinger, the book came out concerning the President of the United States, and that tower was defiance. The Harbingers have not stopped. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, chose to be sworn into office inside that tower of defiance. And as New York pushed the nation to crossing the line concerning abortion originally, it is doing so again. When he caused that law to be passed, he ordered that the tower be lit up to celebrate this act of murder in the color pink.
but it was appropriate. Pink is the color of the remains of slaughtered babies, along with blood red. You want to see evil? It is this. And you want to see the result of a culture that turns away from its biblical foundation? This is the fruit of it. This is ultimately the fruit of all of it. And it's spreading. Now Virginia, as I'm recording this, is seeking to pass a law with the governor's support to be able to kill babies also up to the point of birth, and people say even during birth. Following the lead of New York, Rhode Island and its governor seeking to legalize abortion up to birth. And for those of you who have read The Harbinger and The Paradigm, the central key is that as America falls away from God, it's following the pattern of ancient Israel in its fall away from God. And one of the signs in the fall of ancient Israel was the worship of the god Baal, to whom they offered up their babies. We are watching that now, same spirit. Andrew Cuomo said, "This law is a victory for our progressive values." No, it wasn't. There is nothing progressive about killing babies unless you're a Nazi. It is regressive. It is a regression to pagan values, which is what happens when a civilization that has known God moves away from God, away from the Bible, as did ancient Israel. In the pagan world was abortion. In the pagan world was infanticide, where you could kill babies. We are basically there. In this last election, as in the paradigm, as is revealed, we're at a crossroad. We have never seen the country so divided in our lifetime. The culture war is not ultimately about politics or the economy or one's view of government or immigration or racism or poverty or anything else. I'm not speaking about that. Those issues are there. But they are not the core issue of the culture war. The ultimate core issue is the Word of God, is the way of God. It is ultimately spiritual. It's a war of one side that wants to completely overturn the nation's biblical Judeo-Christian foundation, and the other side that say, no, this is wrong, we must preserve it. That's why in the last Democratic National Convention, for the first time in history, it was literally a celebration of abortion, brazen. Had they won, they promised to strike down every safeguard in place for decades concerning abortion, and that would have every American, no matter what they believe, personally funding and taking part by their funds in the killing of unborn children. In Europe, which tends to be ahead of America in its fall, in apostasy from faith, for the most part, abortion is not legal past the early phase. But now America is moving to allowing the killing of children to the point of their being born. Do you know what other nations do that? Communist China, Communist North Korea. Does that say something? But see, they never had the foundation America had. And the Bible says, to whom much is given, much will be required. We are moving from abortion to infanticide. We are reverting to the sins of the pagan world, as Israel did. And it was this particular sin, the killing of babies, of children, that triggered the judgment of heaven upon that civilization of Israel in ancient times and its destruction. America is heading down an abyss of apostasy, of persecution, of judgment. Where are you going to stand when the time of testing comes, when it costs you to be a believer? We each must rise to the challenge, and we each must become stronger and bolder and more on fire for God, not less, more. The dark, you've heard me say this, the dark is getting darker. It's time that the lights of God get brighter. There is much more to say about this, but for now I need to share this. In the paradigm, in the fall of ancient Israel, there was a reprieve given when an unlikely man, even a man who had not lived a godly life, despite his life, is used to slow down the fall, to oppose the killing of children, to give the nation and the people of God a reprieve. A window of time for the chance of revival. It's not about the man, it's not about politics, it's about revival. To return to God. But it was temporary. We have now witnessed the same thing. It's not about, again, any man or a party, but we now have a window of time. It is the chance for revival. If there is no revival, then America's fall will accelerate. And America's fall is accelerating. You see, there must be revival or there's no hope. We must each all the more fervently pray for revival Be bold for revival. Be bold all the more for the gospel, and no longer hold back the gospel. It's life or death. Open your mouth. Open your heart. Just as it is grossly immoral to kill a child in its mother's womb, it is also no less immoral to have the answer, to have salvation for a perishing world, a world under judgment, and to withhold it from those who are perishing to any soul. That is to deny life in a different womb, to deny the new birth and even the chance for eternal life. We have to open our mouths. We have to speak the gospel. We have to let the chips fall where they may, speak the truth in love to all in one way or another, to everyone in our lives. As for revival, I don't see it now, revival coming from Washington, D.C. I don't see it coming from New York. I don't see it coming from Hollywood. I don't see it coming as of yet. You cannot be dependent on others for revival. There is one revival you can be sure of, you can guarantee. And that is the revival of you, of your life, your walk, your heart, and your devotion. That's where it's at. This is the one place you can be sure to see revival. You can guarantee it in your life. There is no revival if you're attached to the world. There is no